A teenage girl is left in the middle of the woods to fend for herself by an older man she met online. This disturbing case all unfolded on Christmas Day. According to the St. Charles Parish Sheriff's Office in Louisiana, they were alerted about a missing 14-year-old girl from hundreds of miles away in Tennessee. They learned she had met a man online while playing video games, and that man made arrangements to drive all the way to Tennessee to pick her up so she could stay with him. That man was later identified as 28-year-old Alexander Materne. Authorities say 2 days before Christmas, Materne picked up the 14-year-old from her home in Tennessee and brought her all the way to his home in St. Rose, Louisiana, where the two allegedly engaged in sexual acts. Materne seemingly didn't know how young the girl was, as officials say she disclosed her age after the alleged sex acts already occurred. So instead of returning the girl to her home and driving her back to Tennessee, Materne decided to do something else. Officials say the two left Materne's home in St. Rose. He then bought the girl a tent, food, and water, and dropped her off in the woods about an hour north of St. Rose in Tangipahoa Parish. And seemingly unconcerned about her, Materne went to Jennings, Louisiana to celebrate Christmas with his family. But the 14-year-old girl's family started to get concerned when she didn't return home. According to police in Jennings, Louisiana, they got a call on Christmas Eve about Materne possibly having the young girl there in Jennings. But when officers checked his family's home on Christmas Eve, they were told he didn't live there. However, on the following day of Materne's family's Christmas party, they got another guest added to the list, police and sheriff's deputies, who forced Materne to reveal where he dropped the 14-year-old girl, and he did. Deputies say she was left alone in the woods for 2 days, but thankfully she was found unharmed and in good health. But she was taken to a local hospital for evaluation. As for Materne, he was taken into custody in Tangipahoa Parish, where he was charged with 1 count of contributing to the delinquency of a juvenile, plus 1 count of aggravated kidnapping of a child. According to NOLA.com, once he returns to St. Parish, he'll also face a felony carnal knowledge of a juvenile and felony human trafficking. Louisiana's carnal knowledge law makes it illegal for anyone over 17 to have sexual intercourse with a person who is older than 13 but younger than 17. And even though Materne could argue he didn't know the girl's real age, according to that law, lack of knowledge of the victim's age can't be a defense. Well, I want to get criminal defense attorney Serena Townsend's take on this disturbing case. Serena, before we get into that Louisiana law, I want to ask your thoughts on this case overall. I mean, a man pushing 30, leaving a 14-year-old girl in a tent alone in the woods, states away from her home, and seemingly not caring what happened to her. What are your thoughts on this case?
I mean, it's terrifying, right? It's every parent's nightmare. Any parent who has a child who is interested in the internet, in gaming, in speaking to people who they don't necessarily know. And, it's just one of these ultimate reminders to all of us to be super vigilant because people like this do exist. And it's a horrible, horrible thing that she has been exposed to and is going to end up, taking a lot of time and patience in and therapy just to kind of recover from all of this. It's really a terrible and terrifying situation.
I want to quickly thank our amazing sponsors who help us bring you these stories. And I want to highlight a great one, and that's Upside. Upside is a free app that gets you cash back on daily essentials like gas, groceries, and restaurants. Sometimes I only have time for a quick lunch break, but then there are times I can have a nice sit down at a restaurant, and guess what? I can use Upside for both. Plus, I can use Upside to get cash back when I do. It's truly so easy and simple to use, and it's completely free, so why not? This is actual real cash back too. It's money that appears in your Upside app that you can transfer straight into your bank account. So here's what you do. You download the Upside app, claim an offer for whatever you're buying on Upside, you pay as usual using a debit or a credit card, and follow the steps on the app and get paid. You can use Upside at several places like Chipotle, 7-Eleven, Taco Bell, Dunkin' Donuts, and so many other spots. So why not check it out and see if your favorite spot's on the app? To find out how much you could earn, click the link in the description to download Upside, or scan the QR code on your screen and use our promo code LC News to get an extra 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. Again, that's promo code LC News for an extra 25 cents back on your first gallon of gas. And it's not uncommon for two people to meet during or playing video games, I should say. And these two did meet playing video games. Now, we don't know what game necessarily it was or anything like that. But in terms of cases like this one, where you have an older person allegedly engaging with sex acts with a minor, what are your overall thoughts about this digital age of kind of predatory behavior? Now, his defense seemingly is that he didn't know her age before this had all happened. But what are your thoughts overall about, just the vulnerability of young people who engage in playing video games can meet this alleged predator while, just participating in a favorite activity.
Right. I mean, I grew up in the 90s when this was all a new thing. And I think people were very vigilant then because it was new. People sometimes forget as time goes on. Maybe they just think it's pretty normal. I mean, my children play video games too. And so it is a normal activity. But we all have to be so careful because this is a lot of times where predators live. Right. So if you are a predator and you are somebody like this man, you try to enter into spaces where you could gain the trust of a young person. And sometimes we see that in real life, sometimes unfortunately we see that with camp counselors or teachers or even doctors. I mean, you could see it really in any profession, but sometimes they really try to seek people out, even like this, not in person, because these children are vulnerable. They're just playing games. They're not thinking about keeping hypervigilance against somebody who might be predatory, and they take advantage.
And obviously, the biggest factor of this whole story is that he allegedly engaged in sexual acts with his 14-year-old and then discovered her age, left her out in the woods. But according to Louisiana's cardinal knowledge law, it makes it illegal for anyone over 17 to have sexual intercourse with a person who is older than 13 but younger than 17. Now, lack of knowledge of the victim's age can't be used as a defense. Now, you are a criminal defense attorney. What do you kind of make of that law there?
Yes, I am a criminal defense attorney, but I also was a sex crimes prosecutor. So I have both perspectives here. There's always going to be this kind of desire for a defendant to say, I didn't know her age, I couldn't know her age because of X, Y, and Z factors. But the bottom line is there is a reason why the laws exist in this way, especially to protect young people against sexual perversions and sexual activity that they are just too young to be exposed to. And so, yes, it's not a defense to be able to say, I didn't know her age. And frankly, I think a prosecutor is probably going to use a lot of different ways to explain that not only does that not matter, but he should have known, right? Because he went to her home where she was clearly living with her parents. I don't know how much he was able to see in the home or the bedroom or whatnot, but I mean, if you have to travel across states, she obviously, doesn't drive. So there's certain other elements of this interaction that should have told him, ultimately that she was probably still a child or at least underage. But again, our laws, or at least the laws in Louisiana, say it doesn't matter. You are going to be held liable. It's a strict liability law, meaning it doesn't matter. Knowledge doesn't matter. Ignorance of the law doesn't matter. If the numbers play out the way that they are playing out, you're guilty.
And the victim, I just can't help but think about her being left in those woods for 2 days alone in that tent. Have you seen something like this before, especially since the defendant decided not only to do this, allegedly, but then go to a Christmas party right after?
It's horrible. It just shows a lack of remorse. It shows a consciousness of guilt. And it doesn't help. His lawyer is going to want to try to argue a lot of things on his behalf. And even if he's found guilty, a lawyer is going to try to argue certain aspects of mitigation. He's a good person. He doesn't have a prior criminal history. Look at what he devotes his life to in his, I don't know what he does for a living, but maybe he has something going on that a defense attorney could latch onto to try to make things better for him on a sentencing level after he's found guilty, if he is in fact found guilty. Something like this is going to harm that argument. Something like this is going to allow the prosecution to say he didn't even do the right thing after he realized he did the wrong thing. So you shouldn't be giving him credit. You shouldn't be lowering the jail sentence because had he been a straight up person, a good person, somebody who regretted the crime, he would have returned her home to safety. She was probably absolutely terrified, beginning, middle, and end of this event. And, she's a child. She doesn't necessarily appreciate that this wasn't her fault. She might have been scared of, getting a punishment from her parents. And, meanwhile, she's left in the woods. I mean, all of these things that he could have done to help make things just a little bit better after he took such advantage of her, he didn't do. And that's going to be a problem for his defense.
Yeah, and especially going through all the routes to even just go and buy the tent, that little bit of food and leave her alone in the water. It just kind of says something that he had the option, definitely, in my opinion, to take her right back home and do something about that. But, since Alexander Materne traveled from Louisiana to Tennessee, is it out of the realm of possibility that he could face federal charges in this case?
It's not out of the realm of possibility. It's true. When traveling across state lines and committing certain types of crimes by, in the preparation of or the commission of those crimes, it is possible that the feds will take interest in this case. I mean, they could look at this as a trafficking case. They really could. And so he should be concerned about the possibility of being federally charged. In my experience, the feds really don't tend to take on cases unless they really feel it's a slam dunk win. So I expect that they're, analyzing this. They're probably aware of the case and making a determination about whether they want to come forward and take the case federal or whether they want to step back and let the state handle this.
All right, Serena Townsend, I appreciate your insight into this case. Before we sign you off, though, is there any type of message that you may have for parents who, their children are engaging in video games like all kids kind of do? Do you have any message for them on how to kind of stay safe while still navigating this online space?
Yeah. In fact, I liked what I think it was the sheriff or some law enforcement official had said something along the lines of, if you're a parent, don't ever believe not my child. It's right. It's not a negative against your child. It's not a negative against you as a parent. It's just that children are just so susceptible. The best kids are still so susceptible, and the best parents are still potentially busy or not keeping an eye out. And anytime I come on this program and read about these cases, it reminds even me, I was a sex crimes prosecutor, and even I don't necessarily keep my eye every single moment of every single day. But these stories are serious reminders to us all to just be so vigilant for our children's sake. There are some things that can't be undone. And that's why you want to be so careful to be overseeing your children, especially during this holiday season where we're all very busy and we're all trying to think happy thoughts. We always have to remain vigilant for the sake of our children. So that would be our message, my message.
All right, Serena, again, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And of course, Happy New Year's to you.
You too. Thank you so much.
Online records show Alexander Materne is still behind bars in the Tangipahoa Parish Jail in Louisiana. Reporting for Law and Crime, I'm Elizabeth Millner.